Hi guys, it's me again. Yes, I'm going to try and I'm trying to sit so that the light isn't on my glasses because I've got to keep my glasses on because what I'm doing today, I'm talking to you about the effects of the narcissistic parent on the child, which is a really it's just a terrible, really all pervasive form of child abuse, and it has devastating effects, and I really just want to look at that. So, oh, hi Adele. This is why I like wearing my glasses, because I can see people as they join. I just have to be careful about the light on them. So quite often I take them off. But okay, so today looking at narcissism and just the incredible effect that that has on a person as a child. Extremely devastating, and something I definitely deal with a lot in the work that I do. The interesting thing is that often when people come to me as adults, they don't always realize that they had a narcissistic parent, which is very interesting. Or maybe even if they're coming to me kind of age between 30 and 50, it's something they've only just started to realize, something they've just started to think about, and they're not even sure. Sometimes people are absolutely certain they've already done quite a lot of work and they've already worked it out. But I guess this comes from the fact that 10 years ago, it wasn't really a word that we heard. But now, of course, all of the research is out there, and all of these things are available to us, and we can research, and we can kind of apply things to ourselves and say, yes, that's what happened to me. I can relate to this. So it's important. The important thing to know about the word narcissist or narcissism is that in our society, it's generally becoming very overused. Of course, we use it a lot of the time to just, we talk about someone being a narcissist when they're just displaying some kind of self-centered and selfish behavior. And of course, it goes way beyond that. And the real definition of a narcissist, yes, they do have all these things where they appear to be very self-centered, very self-centered, and extremely selfish. But the real definition of narcissism is someone who simply has no empathy for someone else, just cannot relate to their feelings at all. Really has Hi, Carlos. Has no concept of what this other person is going through and what their reality is. So really, there are lots of traits of narcissism. And it's like everything. It's like if you look at autism, you look at Asperger's, those kind of things, there's a spectrum. So most people at some point have some narcissistic traits. We all do. Narcissism is about self. It's about needing praise. It's about needing to be the center of attention, needing recognition. So, of course, all of us at some point, we need that. We need to be appreciated for what we do. And sometimes it can come across in a narcissistic way when we're kind of putting ourselves first. But the real definition of narcissism, and the problematic one that we're talking about, is this absolute, this absence of empathy, because we can all be narcissistic to a degree in our lives, but it's very small because we all have empathy and concern, and we need to consider the feelings of other people for our own happiness. That is absolutely not present with a true narcissist. So if you think about the scale, if you think about it from 1 to 10, there are about 10 main traits. I'm not going to go into all the main traits. I might do that tomorrow, actually. That would be interesting, but it would just be too long to do that, the main traits of a narcissist. And lots of people are going to show up with maybe 2 or 3 of the traits. And as you move up the scale, the more and more of them that you have, hi Kelly, thanks for joining, the more and more of these traits that a narcissist has, then the more damage it's going to do. And as you get to the top of the scale, you'll realize that someone has all of these traits, and the main one they have is this absolute lack of empathy, this total inability to consider or to relate to someone else's reality, what someone else might be going through or suffering in that moment. They just don't care. It's not on their radar at all. Which takes us to, can you imagine now, we all know as adults, we all know of people who say they have been in or they are in these narcissistic relationships, and we know how they struggle with them as adults. Okay, so this is the thing, narcissists, even as adults, they're very, very difficult for us to. It's very difficult for us to relate to these people, to have any kind of relationship with them, because they're just chaos and confusion, as opposed to what we would term as kind of normal operating as human beings. And most of us we just can't navigate, we can't get to grips with who they are, so they're not people we want in our lives. And that's for us as adults. But here's the thing, as adults, we can kind of look at this and go, I don't understand that person. That person's not very nice. There'll be lots of red flags for us. And as adults, we can decide, I don't want that person in my life. That's really not someone that I want to know. And we can remove ourselves. We have the power to do that. We have the option. We have the choice. Now, just imagine being a child raised by a narcissist. Just think about that. A child being raised by a narcissist. Number one, children don't have the emotional ability to be able to work out what's going on. I'm going to go through in a minute all the devastating ways that a narcissistic parent affects a child. But the other thing they don't have, so they're in all this chaos and confusion instead of the love, security, and support that they need. The other thing they don't have is any choice at all. It's exactly the same with any other kind of abuse. They have the chaos, the confusion, but they are trapped. Absolutely trapped. What do? They can't do anything. They are stuck with this. And this is why it is it's a potent and a toxic form of abuse, and the effects of it are very deep. They are totally debilitating, incredibly far-reaching. What they lead to in a child, I'll go through some of the different characteristics and problems that they cause. But what they lead to, they absolutely, definitely lead to complex post-traumatic stress, which, if you remember, is the effect of sustained, crippling abuse over a period of time. And for the child born to a narcissist, that's literally from birth until they leave home. And even when they leave home, if they keep contact with their narcissistic parent, and many, many people do, and I'll talk to you about that, because, logically you think, why don't they just stop? Why don't they just cut all contact? Okay, that doesn't tend to happen. There are many reasons for that. We'll talk about that. So if you think then, so even as adults, they are in contact with the narcissism, and until they realize what has happened and what is happening to them, they continue with the self-doubt, all of the patterns that the narcissistic parent sets up, because they set the child up for failure, really, to have no self-confidence, no self-belief, and to believe that they are bad, they are guilty, and that everything that has ever gone wrong is their fault. And this carries on into the adult life, as I say, until at some point, maybe the adult themselves or a partner or someone outside of them points out this behavior. And even then, it's so ingrained and so deep that it's very, very hard to let go of. Okay, so it definitely sets up this complex post-traumatic stress. There's a lot of symptoms that go with that. Extreme anxiety, because of course the child is in this environment where they can never be right. They are never right. But there's another part of that where a narcissistic parent sees the child as an object. They are a possession, and they are there to meet the needs and for the ends of the narcissistic parent. They are not seen as a child in their own right, to be loved, nurtured, cherished, adored, all the things that children need. That just doesn't apply for the narcissistic parent. They have no understanding of that, no concept of that. So the child is seen as a possession. And as a possession, they are just there to do the bidding of the narcissistic parent. And what it does, it sets them up. Number one, it can set them up to be very high achievers who then self-sabotage, because the other side of this is that the narcissistic parent demands, really, it demands that they achieve something to be loved. It's kind of like, if you do this, I will be proud of you, or you should do this so I can be proud of you. And the child is set up to try to achieve, to earn that love, to earn that adoration that they so desperately need. But here's the thing, on the other side of the coin, once they step over a certain line, the narcissistic parent is then going to feel threatened, and going to become jealous, and is going to attack them for what they have done. Instead of it gets to the point where, so one side of the line, you've got, as long as you do this, I will approve of you. And that it's associated with love. So if you want my love, my affection, you'll do this. But as soon as you hit that line and you go over, suddenly you've done too much. Now you're trying to show me up, you're undermining me, and the child gets attacked. So in terms of anxiety, if you can imagine, you've got this constant battle going on for the child. Did I do enough? Did I do too much? Did I do enough? Did I do too much? And it is never possible for them to do it just right. Never. It never happens. So they never, ever get the approval that they are fighting for. So what they learn is that it doesn't matter what they do, they can't do it right. Because if they do it right, or as they've seen it, they won't get the approval. There'll be something that was missing, some reason why it can't be given. And if they do too much, they get attacked, because now the parent is jealous, maybe of some attention or something that the child is getting. So you've got this constant battle that they can't win, that causes this extreme anxiety. So, okay, so I've written quite a few notes here because I didn't want to miss anything for you, because this is a very, very important subject. So talking about the complex post-traumatic stress there, leading on to that, these children of narcissistic parents, they become extreme people pleasers, no sense of self, because it's not allowed. You are not allowed to be you. You are just a possession. So no sense of self, no sense of expressing yourself or being who you need to be for you, or any sense that you is important. So they become extreme people pleasers, and very, very often they will go into the kind of jobs where they are caregivers. They go into jobs like nursing, even into counseling and things like that, where they are just giving huge amounts of themselves, with no expectation that they are doing this well and that they will get something in return. The other thing is, we're talking about the complex post-traumatic stress. So what there is the absolute need for trauma recovery. The extreme anxiety that I was just talking to you about, it has no option but to start off this anxiety response in the fear system. You've heard me speak a lot about the primal fear system that causes the anxiety response. Well, imagine as a small child, day in, day out, every minute, every hour, knowing that what you do is not right and not good enough. This fear, this trauma system is going to be extremely activated. And later on in life, there is a definite need for proper trauma recovery. And even with the in-depth work that I do, it can take a few sessions before someone really starts to feel very, very different to how they felt in the first place. But at least we can do it. It's a very high percentage of people that I see who have a narcissistic parent in the background when we're talking about extreme anxiety. So that's, when we're talking about abuse and we talk about the effects of emotional abuse, narcissistic abuse is right up there with one of the most damaging types of abuse that a child can go through. So let's have a look. I wrote quite a few notes here to make sure I tell you all the ways. I'm trying to keep low because of the light. I'll try and stay there for the light on my glasses. So yes, I've made quite a few notes so I don't miss some of the ways that a narcissistic parent affects a child. So what do children need? Children need, we know that they need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to feel that they are important and relevant, okay? And they need safety and security and the freedom to be able to express and to develop this sense of self. And from what I've already told you about the narcissistic parent, you know already that is not present. So none of that is available to them. Instead of having the emotional and the emotional security and safety that they need, and then the home where they feel physically safe as well. To children, their home needs to be their sanctuary. A lot of them don't understand the world. It's a very confusing place for them, and home should be sanctuary for them. And for the narcissistic home place, it's the exact opposite. It's a terrifying place where there's just chaos, confusion. They never know what's going to happen. They never know what's going to be expected of them. All they know is that whatever they do is wrong and that there is no way to escape it. So what this sets them up for is this extreme version of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, because it goes through everything. For most of us, we have some kind of positive input, but in the narcissistic home, that just doesn't exist. And this becomes very difficult as well, where maybe one parent is narcissistic and one is not. So the non-narcissistic parent is going to try to make up for what the other parent is doing by parenting in a very empathetic way. But unfortunately, the narcissist isn't just being narcissistic with the children. So whilst the non-narcissistic parent might recognize what's going on and might be able to form some kind of protection and some barriers, they are also protecting themselves because they themselves are constantly being attacked and undermined all the time. So again, some of their resources are going to protect themselves, and they can't all go to protect the child. It's like we say on the airplane, own mask on first. They have to protect themselves, keep themselves strong, and some resources have to go there. So the other thing about the narcissistic relationship is that looks are incredibly important. Always. So the narcissist is always about how things appear, how things look, and this is physical appearance. And this really, really comes through in the work that I do. So many children of narcissists are terrified about their weight, about the way they look. It's a very, very important thing, because what they are taught is that they are valued for what they do and how they look. If you remember what I said earlier about how they're constantly trying to achieve something, to get the praise, to get the love, to get the recognition that they need. So this is all about the look of something, the physical appearance, the ability to do things. And with that as well comes a big need to keep secrets, because the narcissistic parent goes to extreme lengths. Anyone who knows a narcissist or has been in a narcissistic relationship knows that they go to extreme lengths to make sure that outside of the home, the relationship, the situation, things look very different to other people. And this is another one of the real problems of the narcissistic relationship. Even as an adult, if you have been caught up in one and you realize what's going on, and you then start to try to tell other people, they're like in disbelief, because the image that has been portrayed, the facade, what has been said and done, and the actions outside of the home and the situation are so very different to what is actually going on. And what happens for the child then, this is the chaos and the confusion, because the child has to keep secrets to try and win the approval of the adult narcissist. But the child will be aware that what is being shown outside the home isn't what's happening within the home, and that they can't say anything. And as they grow older, they understand how difficult it is to actually say anything, because of these two different faces, these two different presentations of the person and of the home. And this is extremely damaging, because all it does, it adds to their despair, really, because they know that they can begin to see, well, who is ever going to believe me? Who can I ever tell about this? And this sets up there's an amount of gaslighting going on, where the child understands maybe something that's happening, but they're being told by the adult, no, it was a different way. It didn't happen like that. And this is all part of this pattern. So what we see in the narcissistic relationship is these two very common things of the gaslighting that we've spoken about before, where the child's concept of reality is completely undermined. They are made to distrust themselves and their perception of what's going on. But obviously their reality is completely ignored as well by the narcissistic parent. They are not allowed to have any sense of self. They have no idea at all that they are important and that they have value, that they have a voice, that their opinions matter. All of these things that children need are just constantly and continuously undermined. And we end up with a child who becomes an adult who has absolutely no sense of themselves, that they are important as a person, that their values, their boundaries have value and worth as well. And also what they've learned is not to trust. If everything around them is chaos and confusion, and what seems to be isn't, and when they try to put across some element of themselves, to express themselves, to have feelings, to have emotions, they're made to feel that that's not appropriate, it's just irrelevant. So their whole sense of self, it's as if their ego, so the essence of themselves, is attacked for years, and it is ground down and removed. And they go out into the world as an adult very, very confused. They have no idea who they are, that it's okay to actually have a sense of self, And of course, one of the dangers and one of the things that often happens then is that they end up in another narcissistic relationship because it's the only kind they know, where someone else is in control, where they are there to do someone else's bidding. And even though they don't like this, or they may have red flags around it, it's what they know. And the mind loves to go to what's familiar, whether it serves you or not. So we have this awful pattern that gets set up. They don't know how to be assertive. They don't know how to express what's important to them. They don't understand that their needs count, and that all of this matters. They have no healthy role model. They don't know what a healthy relationship looks like because they didn't have one modeled to them. And obviously this is extremely dangerous. So they're constantly looking. I'm always talking about the need to love ourselves. You know, our lives and our businesses and our careers really take off when we learn to love ourselves, and everything we do comes from a sense of our own value and our own purpose. It's a real game changer. It's a real aha moment when you start to come from that kind of place. But obviously, if you're brought up by a narcissistic parent, you get taught the exact opposite. So you become an extreme people pleaser. What you're doing as an adult, you're searching for the validation, for the love, the security and safety, everything that you didn't have as a child, you're looking for. And the only way you know how to find it is to appear to be what someone else needs. That's your patterning. That's what you've been taught. And what you forget is it never got you what you wanted. But you're set on this pattern, this illusion. It's a relationship illusion that if you become exactly what someone else wants, they will love you. If you give them what they need, they will love you. Well, they only love you in terms of being a narcissist. They don't love you because you are loving yourself. You are living a full and rich life. You are becoming the best version of you. They don't care about any of that. They put love in inverted commas. Your only value to them is that you allow them to be what they need to be. So it's literally like you put your whole life and your whole self on hold so that they can be and achieve what they want to be. So, yeah, you have no value to them as a person. They don't care about your thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, or anything like that. The only thing they care about is what they can get from you, that you are there to serve them. What do you allow them to do? How do you allow them to look? You know, that's the only thing they care about. That's the only way you are important to them. But unfortunately, the narcissist, oh, thanks, Sue. I'm sorry that you can understand this. But I know why you're saying that. But yeah, I hate, it's in a way, it's good that you can understand this, but it's horrible. It's horrible that you've been in that situation and that you can relate to this. But yeah, hopefully I know that you're out of that now and repairing some of the damage that it does, which is extreme indeed. So let me just make sure that I haven't missed anything. I did make some notes. Obviously, I didn't need most of them. I just carried on talking as I usually do. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything here. No, the only thing I've missed, the only thing I didn't say was really that to the child with the narcissistic parent, what the child learns, this extreme sense of not being enough because they are always wrong. A narcissistic parent will never ever say, never, that they were wrong, that they are sorry. They will always, you have to remember, this is based on an extreme amount of gaslighting. If you need to know about that, just look up one of my other videos on YouTube. I've done a video on gaslighting. There's definitely trauma bonding. If you remember trauma bonding, this is about the relationship illusion, where someone keeps doing something to gain the approval of someone else. And this is where we end up. Okay, so this is what I was saying earlier about where when children grow up and they can leave home and they've got this awful relationship, they know that this person is no good for them. They can see that they are constantly undermined, that this is hurting them a lot. And the reason they can't cut contact, and many of them never do, a lot of them manage to go minimal contact, but no contact is best for your healing. But a lot of people can't do it, and it's because of this trauma bond. It's because children want this relationship with their parents. They want the love, the security, the approval, the safety. They just want to feel loved, approved of. They want to feel that their parents are proud of them, that they are successful in their parents' eyes. So as adults, what they do in a lesser way than they were children, but they continue chasing that dream. They continue chasing the dream of that relationship, and it is never going to happen. This is one of the things I really hate. There's very little that I really hate about my job, but one of the things that I really, really dislike and I find very, very difficult is when I'm dealing with someone who has this narcissistic parent situation, and they're telling me all about how they just keep going back, they keep trying to do this, and they're saying, why do I do this? Oh, but I need my mum to love me. I still feel like I need this. I want this. And I have to say to them, that is never going to happen. It can't happen. And it can't happen because the narcissistic parent is not capable of it. And it's a very challenging moment to have to say that to someone, but I have to tell them so that they can start to focus on the fact that it's not going to happen, and they can let it go and stop wasting their lives on it. And you know, when people get it, it's such a huge relief. It's like a relief of a massive burden, because they're chasing this illusion of this relationship that they desperately, desperately want. And it ties up a lot of resources for them, trying to see, how can I get this? How can I be this? How can I make this happen? How can I have my mom and my dad in my life? How can I make them love me? How can I be what they need me to be? And they'll go through all the things they've done, even as adults, all the ways they've put themselves out, traveled great distances to try and meet up for lunch, to be part of something, to be disappointed and to be let down every time. And yeah, it's very, very hard to say this is never going to happen. You have to face the reality that your parent is not capable of what you want them to do. You are chasing an illusion. You're wasting your life. And no matter how much you want it, it is not going to happen. And even as the adult, again, adults in grown up narcissistic relationships, mostly because this is what they learned, this is what was modeled to them. Thank you. You like that? Good. I'm glad you like that point. It's getting to the point. You see, this is what children don't have. Children in these relationships don't have this. They don't have they don't have the emotional capacity anyway, but they don't have the ability to be able to say, this is never going to happen. I'm just chasing an illusion. And that's my job when I work with someone. So the work that I do with people who have had narcissistic parents, this whole complex post-traumatic stress, you can see the amount of anxiety, depression, but also the lack of sense of self. And no matter what kind of abuse I'm working with, this instilling this sense of self, this value, this purpose, this learning to love yourself and understand your own worth and what you deserve is obviously a huge part of what I do. That's a very quick summary of it. So when we're working now with complex post-traumatic stress that comes from narcissistic parenting, it's exactly the same. It's a whole trauma response, but we have to go through the process. It's like a reparenting process, upgrading the hurting inner child, doing this reparenting so that the person learns to think about themselves at a very deep level. We're not talking, this isn't what we do at a conscious level. This is undoing, rewriting, reprogramming, literally re-scripting the years of the child abuse by the narcissistic parent, and helping the adult to see themselves in another way. And RTT is fantastic for this, because we can just go in, we can see the beliefs and see where they came from, and there and then we can overwrite and we can do the healing. And it's really quite incredible, the way people can heal from this narcissistic abuse in quite a rapid and a phenomenal way when we do the RTT. And as I said, they can go on then to gain abundance and to live a rich and full life in all areas of their lives.